Whew, it is hot, boys. It is hot. We're gonna go in the garage and cool off, man. This weather is friggin' unbelievable. Nice and cool in here. We got the AC cranking. Welcome back to the channel, guys. We are back in the garage. It's gonna be a garage video for this video. So huge shout out to tire balls. We finally got our tire balls in. We got 2 kits for the front, 2 kits for the rear. In each kit you get 1 extra tire ball and you get 1 little bottle of lube. Plenty of lube to do this. You'll have a little extra. Another huge shout out to GBC tires. We already have our tires mounted on our Hyper wheels. Another shout out to Hyper. I like to do this because when they ship these tires, they squish them together, and the fronts aren't too bad. I could work with the fronts, but the rears usually get kind of deformed, and it would just make this install process a lot harder. So what I like to do is just mount them quick, fill them with air, and let them sit for a while. So when I take these apart, they're going to be perfectly round and a lot easier to work on. Some of the tools you're going to need for this job, guys, you're going to need a bead breaker for the front tires. That's a must-have. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight one. I've had this for like probably 10 years or more. It works fine. Some tire spoons. These are tire spoons from Tusk, I believe. These are just from Rocky Mountain, but I will say these are the absolute best tire spoons on the planet. We have a third smaller tire spoon. I like to use 3 for the rear just to get the rim over the tire. Makes it a little easier. We got our multi-port inflator. This makes life a lot easier when you're doing this. You can plug one of these into every single ball, fill them up all at once. It has a 2-way valve on here, so once you get the air pressure where you want it, you can shut them all off and you can pull these out. Now they do make a single port inflator, which that's how I kind of started out using this for many years. Right here, this guy. It'll work, it'll get the job done, but you got to keep in mind it's going to take a lot longer. But if you're on a budget, because this guy right here, that guy is very expensive and they're very hard to get right now. Like, I don't even think you can get them. You could try to get the parts and make them, but I was kind of lucky when I grabbed this probably about 3 years ago. Right when I saw they had one, I was like, I want it, just because I'm doing these a lot and I'm doing some of these for friends. So this just makes the job so much easier. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to unmount the tires, because to install the balls you're just going to put them directly in the tire, and then we'll put the rim in afterwards. But I'm not going to film this part of the process. I'm just going to video the install process. So we're going to get those unmounted, and then we're going to get these tire balls installed. We're just going to do 1 front and 1 rear, show you guys how it's done. So let's get to work. All right, guys, we got all the tires unmounted. So you're going to need a pair of gloves, because this does get kind of messy. It gets very slippery, so make sure you got some rags, some gloves, because you'll be slipping with everything you touch. So you can see how the tires are they're still a little cupped, but it'll be all right. These will be fine. We can't wait anymore. We got to get these mounted, because we're going to use these tires for the next race at round 6, and fingers crossed with the new quad as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to lube the inside of the tire first. And grab some of this lube. So what I like to do is I like to take all their bottles and I pour them into this larger bottle that has like a better cap. So I'm not like pouring crazy kind of lube everywhere. So I'm just gonna squirt a bunch in here. You don't have to go too crazy, but you do want a good coat on the tire. This is just gonna help extend the life of these things. All right, and then I'll take my rag. My rag, like I was saying, my rag is already like pre-soaked with lube, so it'll just make it easier. So you can see how this thing is turning shiny black on the inside. Make sure you get the whole thing, rub it all in. All right, we got it all. So now what we're gonna do is we are just gonna start getting all our balls plugged into our multi-port filler inflator. We only need 13, so we're going to take one, we're going to put it off to the side. That's a spare. And then basically we're gonna take these, we only need 13. So I'll try to mark these out. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. So there's 3 that we don't need. We'll make sure those are off. Shut the one-way valve off on that. Just put them out of our way. And then we'll take these and just start plugging these in. They got a little valve stem. You're just gonna pop them in nice and easy. Make sure you don't stick it through the other end of the ball. You gotta be careful. Kind of get it in and then go on like an angle. We're gonna put a little air in them to start. And then we're gonna lube them all up. All right, so we're just gonna put a little bit of air in these just so they start to take shape. It's gonna make the install process a little easier, just to get them blown up a little bit. Make sure they're all kind of even. Oh, I got one that shut off. All right, so I'm gonna let a little bit of air out. All right, so now we're just gonna take our rag that's already filled with lube. We're gonna just pop these in my bucket. It'll be a little easier just to do this in here. Get rid of this. So I'm just gonna lay all these in here. Start lubing them with the rag. Just make sure you get it on there. You'll see it, they turn very shiny. And you can add lube if you need. You can just pour it right onto the balls and then wipe it with a rag, or like I do, I just like to soak this rag. It's like super soaked, so there's a lot of lube on here. Very slippery to work with, that's for sure. All right, we're at the last one, and then we'll start popping these into the tire. All right, so we're just gonna grab one at a time, try to kind of go in order with the hoses. And you're just gonna put them in like this. Make sure that valve stem is facing out. I will say, I think the fronts are a little bit easier because the balls are smaller, but the rears, once you get them going, it's not too bad. It's just about having just enough air in them where they kind of will hold in place, and you can get them all in there, and then you just fill them up after that. So the last one, you just gotta kind of push a gap, and it will slide in because you got the lube on there. So you just kind of push with your hands, and then you can get the bottom in there. Like that. All right, so I'm right at 5 psi. Oops, hit the camera again. Sorry guys, I am a klutz. All right, so we are at 5 psi. This is all personal preference. You're gonna run air over these no matter what. That's gonna extend the life of them with any tire prevention setup. So we're gonna run 5, and we're gonna check it once we mount the rim and see how it looks. But I think that's gonna be good. And then we'll run a few pounds of air over it, maybe like 3-4 pounds. And it should be a really good setup. So let me make sure these are all on. Let me get, oh, that one came off. All right, I shut all my valves off. Now we can pull all the needles out. You guys can see that, hopefully. All right, next we'll get the rim ready and we'll pop the rim inside the tire. All right, we're gonna do this on the ground because it's nice to have leverage. Whatever tires you're using, guys, if they are directional, make sure you set them up correctly on each rim. These are non-directional, so they can go either way, but what I do want is to have this nice blue logo on the outside on each tire. So I'm gonna make sure that my rim, you can see this is the front. We did lube the wheel, so it's gonna make it a little easier to go in. And pop this guy in. All right, and then you're gonna push it down. And this is where the 3 tire spoons come in handy. So we're just gonna pop these all in. And then roll that tire over the rim, just like that. And then we can just keep it going. And there we go. Now we can get our ring. All right, guys, we got our ring. I like to put just a little bit of Never-Seez on the bolts for my hypers. I do not use Loctite. I like to do the Never-Seez. So there might be a situation where you can see how the tire is probably a good inch or so away from the beadlock ring. So what I like to do is I have a couple longer bolts that I use just to get the ring started. And then once you get it started, you can get the shorter ones to grab. So I just do 2, 1 on each end with a couple washers. And this will suck the ring down. And then we should be able to get these guys to grab. Yep. All right, now we should be able to get them all. So this tire obviously has no air. I'll wipe it down, clean it up. No air in this tire. We'll show you how it sits with no air. Hopefully you can see that. So no air, just the balls. This is with me on it, 180 pounds. So this will get you home without a doubt if you were to get a flat on a race. And you could run them, you could set up the balls with a little more air and run just the balls. But like I said, with any flat prevention setup, you want to run some air over them. It's just going to extend the life out of whatever product you're using. So the balls are just a backup. So that's all they're in there for, is just a backup. So run your normal air pressures. I usually run like 3.5, 4 over this. So I'm just gonna go, I'll go 5. All right, that's 4 right there. I'm gonna keep it at 4. All right, we'll show you again now with full of air. So now these are full of air. So that's a perfectly set up rear tire. Clean it up. All right, let's move on to a front tire next. All right, so it's basically the same process. Smaller tire, smaller balls. So we're gonna lube up the tire. All right, now we can get our balls going. The fronts, you gotta be very careful because you'll poke a hole through the other side easier than the rears. So just gotta like push it. Make sure you're pushing it kind of sideways and not straight through because you will put a hole in them. So just kind of turn the needle. All right, turn it sideways and then you'll get the thing right in there. All right, we'll throw a little air in them. That's pretty good right there. All right, and we'll just lube these up. Same deal. Pretty much the same process. We're gonna put them in with the valve stem kind of pointing on an angle, like that. All right, I'll fill these up. I'm gonna put these right at 7. All right, and we'll get our rim in this thing. All right, we did lube our rim, so keep in mind that pretty much all front tires are directional, so just make sure when you're doing your second rim, it's aligned properly, so just keep that in mind so you don't have to take these apart afterwards. All right, so that's in. So it's be easier if we flip it. I like to just kind of push on it with my knees. Just like that. And get our ring. All right, we'll pop the bead on the inside and then we'll show you how these sit with no air. All right, so I'll show you guys, this is no air. No air on this. This is me leaning on the tire. You can see it's got enough in it with the balls where you're going to be able to finish a race and make it to the checkers. Alright guys, that is a wrap. We did get the last 2 tires done, that last front and the last rear. I think they look pretty good. What do you guys think? We're going to throw these on the new girl and we're going to ride her this weekend at MX 101. We're going to do MX practice day. That is my favorite track, so it should be a lot of fun. We got a decent group coming, so it should be a good day altogether. If all goes well, we are going to race her. We're going to race her at round 6. I'm actually excited. I really do want to race this quad, but if I have any uncertainty or if something's not right, then this girl is pretty much ready to go. We just got to throw the plastics on her, put a fresh air filter in her and just go over her quickly, but for the most part she's good to go. Huge thank you to Tire Balls, huge thank you to GBC, and a huge thank you to Hyper and also B&R. I actually get my mod rings from B&R. These have the tabs and that's how I mount my mud plugs. That's these guys right here. You can see the screw, so that goes right in that. These are sweet. They're a sweet setup, definitely makes it look cool. Plus you got the graphics. I run them on all my quads. You can see it's got them on there. So like I said, that's it. Make sure you give me a thumbs up on this one, guys. It helps me a ton. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this tire setup and the balls, the tire balls. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next one. All right, peace.